200. How are you? This is Sunday, the 4th, 2022. All right, so this is Labor Day weekend, and I'm just going to put this out there because some of you may want to watch this, some of you may not right now. But hey, we beat up on Rice. That was a big deal, huh? Did you know the student population of Rice University is about 7? Not, not that, but not like USC. Julie, what is the student population at Rice? 5,000. Not a whole lot to draw from there, okay? All righty, guys. So, but it was good. It was a good win. So what we're going to do now is just a little bit of catch up for the newbies in class. We actually have had some people that have added the class. If you've just added the class, okay, this is probably the first time you're looking at a video. Hopefully not, okay, because what you should have done is you scroll backwards in time. This is chronological, and this is the heads up about what's due from Julia. We'll be communicating that way all the time. This was our first hello, and this is the how to get an A in GERO 200. So watch this right here, okay? And then the other thing we have right here is we have a how-to folder, okay, right there. If you click on this how-to folder, it takes you into, all right, a lot of different components of the class, how to use Turnitin, how to avoid plagiarism, which is a big deal, how to post in our discussion boards, okay? And then Blackboard help, okay? How to look at old quizzes, all kinds of really neat stuff in here, okay? And if you look real closely in here, what to do if you just added GERO 200, all right? So this explains what you got to do right here. Julia Walsh, my wife, awesome professor who's the co-instructor. That's who you can communicate with if you have any issues, all right? Okay, so what we do every single week, okay, we have something coming up over here soon, and I'll show you how to do that writing assignment. You can do it in advance. You can do everything in advance if you wish, okay? So weekly assignments right here. Okay, we've done week 1, we've done week 2, okay, and now we're going into week 3, okay? Week 3 right here. It's going to be a short week. I know I've said this before, but it is going to be a short week, okay? So this is just basically kind of a way to look at demographics, which is a study of kind of groups or aggregates of the population, really sociological trends in history, okay? So I was a baby boomer based when I was born, and what do we call you guys, okay? Well, this was a kind of an issue, so we're going to refer a lot to the Pew Foundation right here, okay? The Pew Foundation is like, what do we call you guys way back when in 2019? And they kind of looked at what was being done, for example, you know, in different types of social media and stuff like that. And ultimately, the agreement was, we're not going to call you post-millennials. We're not going to call you the I generation. We're calling you guys Gen Z. So that's who you guys are, Generation Z. And we look down here at all the generations that have preceded you, okay? So this was my parents, okay, the great generation, okay, great because they had to fight through a lot of different wars and really difficult times like the Depression, right? Here we are, right here, the baby boomers, okay, so they came back from wars and they made lots of babies, okay, and then we see right here we have Gen X, we have the millennials, okay, that are hitting midlife now, believe it or not, and then the Gen Zs, which are you guys right now, okay. All right, so that's, you can read up on this, and you know, this basically it's describing as to how we categorize these different types of generations, okay? And then what you can do is you come into, so that's this one right here. We always provide a PDF file for new to the class, just in case the website goes down, all right? And that's what that's all about, okay? And then this is kind of cool. You kind of look at different trends. Excuse me. This was done in 2018, okay? So again, if it's written in 2018, it's going to be a little bit historic. So it talks about, you know, things that were happening, for example, in 2016, okay? And we see this already setting into motion the fact that while my generation, you know, I turned 18 and I catapulted and I didn't, you know, from home and I did not return. Things like housing affordability and kind of delayed competitiveness in the workplace, meaning you got to go to college and grad school to get, you know, the type of credentials to get a really good job. This is kind of part of your generation, okay? And the generation that just precedes you as well. So as a result, people are finding that there's a big uptick in the multi-generation households, okay? And I'm referring to this right now because I know a lot of you guys are business majors. A lot of you guys are actually, we have a separate major called real estate development. And this is something to think about. It is kind of a future in terms of real estate. You know, are we going to, you know, build homes that will feature special properties so that, you know, multiple generations can live with each other, but not live all over each other and be in conflict. Okay, and what kind of amenities need to be done and things like that. So that's what this is all about right here. Okay, we see that, you know, another big trend. You know, I got married 35 years ago. Okay, and 1987 right here, and it was already in the decline. Okay, and marriage is something people don't do anymore. Okay, and that has sociological, legal, financial impacts. Okay. And then we look at, you know, transitions in immigration, very political, obviously. All right. So the number of immigrants that come in reflect whatever part of the world is having serious problems and strife. Okay. So you know, we had a lot of natural disasters that just slammed into Haiti, and so there was a lot of immigrants coming from Haiti. We had Syria, of course, lots and lots of political unrest, as we see right here in Syria. And now we have a lot of immigrants coming in from where the country, Ukraine, because of the political unrest. Okay. And so this, you know, you'll see that it varies quite a bit. Okay. And then we have our own personal politics that are set into motion based on who's president, who's in charge of the Senate and Congress in terms of setting quotas and restricting different types of immigration. Okay. Big deal right here. Now, as we learned, okay, oftentimes when we see an aging population, having immigrants come into the country is economically and financially good for the country in some ways. So it's all about the way things are run. Okay. Alrighty. This goes over this right here in terms of, you know, the arrivals and the immigrants. Okay. So that's what that's all about right there. Okay. So we're just kind of whizzing through this, you know, right? We're blowing right through it. Really cool stuff, though. Okay, and then this one right here is kind of fun, and it just looks at the sociological differences. Okay, that every generation has experienced. Okay, so there's a little interactive tool here. Again, this was done a couple years back. So this was 4 years ago here, and you can just look at the composition. Okay, of each generation. Okay. So, like I said, you know, millennials, okay, the middle agers right here. Okay, we don't have the Gen Yers in here, but we have my parents, we have the baby boomers, we have the Gen Xers. Okay, and we can look, for example, what the race or ethnicity composition was of the country. And so what you see is this growing trend, as you can see, of white people making making a much smaller percentage of the country. And then you can look at the composition of each representative ethnic group here. Okay. All righty. We can look at marital status and how that's changed. Okay. All right. And so we can see right here that again, why would we see so few married people in my parents' generation? That's because there's a lot of widowed right here. You see that's making up a larger composition, okay? But if you add this to that, okay, we see that most people were married back then, okay? We see that this is transitioning right in here, okay, to different groups, and you see the millennials, they didn't get married, all right? Male education, okay? So we can see educational trends, okay? Female, you know, and again, it shows you how, you know, that hasn't changed much, okay, over generations in terms of the composition of our society. But we see that female education has changed, you know, dramatically, okay. So we see more and more and more and more women with bachelor's degrees or at least some kind of college degree. We can look at labor force and how that's changed, okay. Big, you know, so my mom's generation, women didn't work, okay? Right here, okay, me and my wife, a lot of women worked, okay? More and more women are working, and that's because you're being asked to do so. We can look at household incomes, okay? And the changes right here that's going on, veteran status, on and on and on, okay? You can look right here when they were younger, okay? So you can look at these different trends when each of these groups was this age group, okay? So it's just kind of interesting and fun to kind of play with, okay? And then the rest of the figure kind of breaks down a lot what we were looking at before, okay? Educational status in women, okay? Looking across the different generational subsets, okay? The categories that we set up of silent, boomer, Gen X, and millennial. I'm sorry you're not in there, Gen Yers, next go around, okay? But you can obviously see that there is a big change, okay, in terms of education status for women. More men are getting educated as well, okay? We were a lot more blue collar back in my parents' era, okay? And we can see this transfer right here, all right? We already defined that right there from the previous article. That's it. So that's the drill right there. All right. So this is just a way of setting up, because we're going to do a lot of, social science, and we're going to do some combining populations with, say, trends, okay, that lead to disease and stuff like that. So that's like that's called epidemiology. Epidemiology helped us figure out where the coronavirus came from. Okay. All righty. Epidemiology helps us figure out why people get cardiovascular disease and cancer. Okay, so it's important to look at each generation, what they've been exposed to, and how that defines who they are. All right, cool. All right, so then we have this concept. So I brought up this real estate concept, this multiple generations, okay, living in the same household, okay, and why is this happening? Okay, and so this article right here is a quick article in the Washington Post. You go to the prescription, or we created a Word file, a docx file, okay? So you can look at it, and you can see the take-home message right here, okay? And that is that housing affordability has gotten more and more difficult, okay? So we can look as a function of the age cohort right here, but you can see here that when we look at the baby boomers, when we look at, say, this right here, we're looking at 40 years of age, you see that we have more than double the ownership of homes compared to Gen Xers. And you can see millennials are in a crash course of not having much home ownership. Okay, why is that? Why is that? Okay, it's because the cost of housing far exceeds the change in terms of people's salaries and the kind of jobs they get. It's really sad. Okay, so this is where we're at right now in terms of California housing affordability. So this is in 2022, and we're looking at the average price, okay, the median price of a house, and what you would need to be bringing in order to qualify for the house right here. Okay, so for this price house, you got to be making at least a minimum of $200,000 a year. Okay, so it's kind of scary. It's very difficult, when you think about it for your generation. Okay, and we apologize for that. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. And then down here, we start thinking about the dilemma. We've seen this big age bubble, okay? We have this enormous number of older people that's only going to grow. Remember, we're transitioning from 7% to 15% to, close to 30% by, 2050. So what are we going to do? In terms of housing affordability, and it's a big issue. This was this huge report on housing. For those of you that are B majors, and those of you that are real estate development majors, I encourage you to kind of nose around this report. It's a very long report, so it's way more. It's an amazing site, and it's way more than you will need. Okay, you can certainly go in there and click on this and go check it out. Okay, and it talks about lots of different components to the housing. What you would do is you can download the report right here, or you can look at individual types of components of this report or graphics. Okay, so again, it's very extensive, and we only put it out there for those of you that would be interested in that. All right, very cool. All righty. And then we come down here and we're looking at people that would be my age. Now, I'm not retiring right now, but we look at retirement age households, and how we're looking at the cost, the burden that they are experiencing. Okay, and so there's just a threshold. They refer to it as a burden. Okay, and we can see that the renter burden is going up right here. Okay, owners with mortgages is going up right here. Okay. And then, of course, owners without mortgages, this is not going to be much of a burden, okay? All right, so and that just kind of plays it out itself out right there in terms of the population. Okay, we're looking at a projection by the year 2038. Okay, the number of older adults living alone is projected to dramatically increase. Okay, so we're going to have this huge housing issue for them. So considering all this, okay, everything we talked about in this lecture, we just want you to think about your solution to housing and housing issues, okay, and how you're going to fix that. All right, my friends. Okay, so that's it. It's a short one for this week. Have a great Labor Day tomorrow, and then before you know it, we'll wrap back in there doing our thing. Okay, so peace, and we'll see you next time.